What's up, Alabama fans? We appreciate you guys joining today's show. Before we get into all the recruiting news that's been going on in this past week for Alabama, we just want to send some condolences to the family and friends of Khyree Jackson and the two others who were killed in a car accident early on Saturday morning about 3 a.m. Khyree Jackson played for Alabama in 2021 and in 2022 before transferring to Oregon and then eventually being drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in this past year's NFL draft. Jackson wore number 6 for the Crimson Tide, so we ask you guys to spam the number 6 for Khyree Jackson in the comments section. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking about the recruiting news that's been going on for Alabama. I am back from vacation. I got down to Gulf Shores, finally got back home, and was very excited to do that. And in that time, there was a lot that was going on. Alabama picked up 3 new commitments as well as 2 decommitments for the Crimson Tide. Let's get into it. The first commitment that Alabama had last week came from Kaleb Edwards this past week. 4-star tight end recruit, number 159 overall, the number 8 tight end in this class, and the number 14 player from the state of California. He's 6'6", 235 pounds, so, your prototypical tight end body. He's got strong hands. He's able to catch balls, being contested in coverage as well. He's the relationship with Kalen DeBoer and this staff has gone on for more than just his time at Alabama. He took 2 visits as well to Washington while Kalen DeBoer was still there. And then after he makes that transition as Alabama's new head coach, Kaleb Edwards decides to get a visit. He took a visit to Alabama for the A-Day game and then took another visit back on June 17th. And I really like what this guy brings to the table. He can block as well. And, he's a dual sport athlete as well. He plays basketball, he plays baseball. So really like what Alabama can get from Kaleb Edwards in this 2025 recruiting class. The next commitment that Alabama got, this was a big one for them as well. Justin Hill, 4-star recruit in this 2025 class, top 100 player, number 58 overall. Alabama is recruiting him as an edge rusher at that wolf position. So that outside linebacker, kind of that guy that, he's going to be rushing the quarterback, but also they're going to ask him to drop in coverage a little bit as well. He's the number 4 player from the state of Ohio in Cincinnati from Winton Woods. Both of these guys are big pickups for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer in this 2025 recruiting class. So get at the pinned comment for me right now. Grade Alabama's very, very chilly summer so far on the recruiting trail. Grade it A, B, C, D, or F at the pinned comment. They've been doing a great job. They've got 20 commitments so far in this 2025 class. So grade Alabama's summer of recruiting A, B, C, D, or F at the pinned comment. This is what Justin Hill told Michael Dyer of WCPO in Ohio about the NIL offers that he had been receiving before committing to Alabama. He said it got serious to the point where I was getting calls about it going higher literally an hour before I had to drive up here to come announce. Obviously, it didn't change anything, but it's definitely just crazy. It's a crazy thing. Now, what to me this says is Alabama is absolutely still Alabama. I love this mindset from Justin Hill. You don't go to Alabama for NIL money or NIL opportunities. You go to Alabama because of the development and their track record of putting players into the NFL. And also, what do we talk about all the time? The NFL does not necessarily stand for the National Football League. It stands for not for long. You're not going to play in the NFL for a long time, so you need to be set up for opportunities after your time in the league. And Alabama is notorious about building connections for those players for their time after the NFL. And I love it when players, come in and they talk more about the development. They talk more about, those connections that you can make rather than NIL. I'd rather have a player that talks about that. And to me, it just still means that Alabama is absolutely still Alabama, even after Nick Saban's retirement and into this new Kalen DeBoer era. Alabama got another, this is pretty interesting to me, a second kicker in this 2025 class. Peter Notaro has committed as a preferred walk-on in this 2025 class. And from the little bit of stuff that we've seen out there, he's a pretty solid kicker. We talked about Cole's kicking back when Alex Asparuoff committed to Alabama. They rank Notaro as the number 4 kicker in this 2025 class, which kind of equates to about a 4.5 star on that kicker scale. This is what Notaro said about kind of his background and how he got into kicking. He said, "I came from a soccer background and played for 11 years. I had a very bright future in soccer as I played for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the ECNL Elite Clubs National League for 7 years. I started taking kicking seriously in the 10th grade, and I have worked every single day very hard for all of my opportunities. Being able to hit long field goals, having 60-plus yard range easily, and hitting them under pressure and consistently is what makes me stand out." Now, I love the fact that he's got a soccer background. You know, we saw what Brandon Aubrey was able to do for the Dallas Cowboys this past year. He wasn't a football player, he was a soccer player for the longest time, and then got into football later on in his career. And being from that soccer background, you know the kid's got a leg. If you just go to his Twitter page, he's kicking 65-yarders into the wind. I love seeing that from a, preferred walk-on, not even going to be a scholarship guy at Alabama. And, you got Connor Talty, you got Graham Nicholson, who's going to play this year for Alabama, then most likely go on to the NFL. We'll see what Connor Talty, has for Alabama after that, as well as Alex Asparuoff. I'm never going to say his name right, by the way. Never going to be able to say it right. But I think he's definitely a guy, anyways, that can come in and absolutely, compete for a kicking position after Graham Nicholson, moves on to the NFL. So it's another kicker for Alabama in this 2025 recruiting class. We want to give a shout out to our friends over at Fanatics. You can go get your Alabama alumni jerseys now in the NFL. I know a lot of Alabama fans are also Tennessee Titans fans. You got a lot of Saints fans as well. Atlanta Falcons fans. Just go to chatsports.com/NFL jerseys to get those former Alabama player jerseys. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. There will also be a little clickable link over there in the corner that you guys can click on. That's chatsports.com/NFL jerseys. Now, with the recent commitments that Alabama got, they also got a couple of decommitments in this 2025 class. 3-star linebacker Myles Johnson and 4-star DB, I believe 247 had him as an athlete, Zymear Smith, both decommitted from Alabama this past weekend. And, we'll talk about it a little more on, but these were not necessarily surprises, from the Alabama coaching staff that these guys decommitted. But before we talk a little bit more about that, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. Do these recent decommitments worry you at all? Type Y for yes, N for no in the comment section. I don't necessarily think they should worry you at all. Alabama's pretty solid, both at that linebacker position, and they've gotten some decent cornerback commits in this 2025 class. So get in the comments, do these decommitments worry you at all? Y for yes or N for no? This is the 247 Sports Composite rankings for both guys. Myles Johnson unfortunately tore his ACL before his junior season even started. So, he was lower on the rankings. He was considered kind of one of those project guys that, maybe you bring in and he turns into something eventually. Recently, Alabama just hasn't been talking to him that much, unfortunately. He ended up taking official visits to both Ole Miss and Florida as well. So, the writing was kind of on the wall, for Myles Johnson. And when it comes to Zymear Smith, we got Dejoun Lee in the class as well last Friday, 5-star corner as well for Dejoun Lee. So, Zymear Smith, was he going to be a corner? Was he going to be a safety? I think he was going to be one of these guys that can maybe play both positions possibly, but Alabama was more looking for him to be a corner. And Smith is from the state of Maryland, and Maryland, was pushing really hard for him and made him feel like he was a priority for him. So, it's unfortunate that you lose anybody that, decommits from a class, but I think these guys were kind of two guys that nobody was really surprised that they decommitted. Myles Johnson taking those other visits as well. They lost the, kind of communication with Myles Johnson, and same with Zymear Smith. So it's unfortunate that you lose those guys, but when it comes to that cornerback position, there's still another guy that Alabama really, really likes, and they would love to flip in this 2025 recruiting class. That is Na'eem Offord, an in-state guy, a 5-star recruit in this 2025 class, number 6 player overall, the number 2 corner and the number 1 player from the state of Alabama, currently committed to Ohio State, took an official visit to Alabama just a couple of weeks ago and, had some fun on that official visit, but who doesn't have fun on official visits these days? You really want to get these in-state guys. He's from Birmingham, just a 45 minutes to an hour drive from Tuscaloosa. And could you just imagine this cornerback class if Alabama was able to flip Na'eem Offord from Ohio State? You have Chuck McDonald, 4-star, number 73 overall, number 8 corner in this class. And they got Dijon Lee on board, 5-star cornerback, number 22 overall, number 4 corner. And then Na'eem Offord, just talked about him, number 6 overall, and the number 2 corner in this class. If Alabama can get all 3 of these guys, back-to-back years at that DB, corner, safety class, man, they're going to have a very, very stacked DB room in the next couple of years. Whether or not they get Na'eem Offord or not, Alabama's still pretty set up at that DB room for the future. Make sure you guys are subscribed right here to the Alabama Football Report. We've got a lot of news coming up for you guys. So make sure you guys are subscribed at youtube.com/@RollTideTV.